We continue our study with Matthew chapter 12. At that time, Yeshua was walking on the Shabbat in the fields, and his disciples became hungry and began to pick grain and to eat. But when the Pharisees saw them, they said to him, "Behold, your disciples are doing something that is not lawful to do on the Shabbat." But he said to them, "Have you not read what David did when he hungered, and those who were with him? How he entered the house of Elohim, and he ate the bread of the altar of Master Yahweh, which was not lawful for him to eat, neither for those who were with him, but only for the priests." So let's look at 120. The religious Shabbat of the Pharisees is in contrast to the Shabbat of Yahweh and his Mashiach. Under these circumstances, Torah does not prohibit picking and eating grain on Shabbat. Yahweh's Shabbat is an eternal truth for everyone, not a commandment for Jews only. See Exodus 20:10, Leviticus 25:6, Deuteronomy 5:14, and Isaiah 56:6. Sadly, the Jewish Shabbat has become a rigid set of Pharisaical tradition rather than a universal day of rest and intimacy with Yahweh and his Mashiach. Yeshua did not pluck grain himself, but neither does he prohibit his disciples. Knowing well that accusation would follow, he supports the freedom of his disciples against their accusers and reveals the intent of Torah, elevating but never diminishing either the Torah or the Shabbat of Yahweh. And let's look at this 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel 21, verse 6. And answered David the priest and said to him, "Though truly women have been kept from us about 3 days since I came out, and are the vessels of the young men holy, and it is in effect common, and even though this day it was sanctified in the vessel." Verse 5, "Or have you not read in Torah that the priests in the temple disregard the Shabbat and they are without blame? But I say to you that one greater than the temple is here now." 123, "Yahweh is greater than the temple. The Ruach HaKodesh in Yeshua brings discernment and wisdom, but the Pharisees view Yeshua as making himself the higher authority rather than recognizing the Spirit of Yahweh that speaks through Mashiach." Matthew 23:15 through 22. "But I say to you that one greater than the temple is here now. But if only you would have known what was meant by 'I desire mercy and not sacrifice,' you would have not condemned those that are without blame. For the master of the Shabbat is the Son of Man." Hosea 6:6, "For mercy I desire and not sacrifice, and the knowledge of Elohim more than burnt offerings." Obedience rather than sacrifices, from Hosea 6:6. Yeshua is the master of Shabbat, lawful to do good on Shabbat. And Yeshua departed from there and came to their assembly. The Beit Knesset is Hebrew for the assembly. "And a certain man was there that had his hand withered, and they were asking him whether it is lawful to heal him on Shabbat, so they might accuse him." And he said to them, Who among you men, that if he has a certain sheep that falls into a pit on the day of the Shabbat, would not grab and raise it out? Now, how much more important is a man than a sheep? So then it is lawful to do that which is good on the Shabbat. Yahweh made Shabbat for man, not man for the Shabbat. Healing on Shabbat, although contrary to man's traditions or works of the law, is most certainly not contrary to the spirit and intent of Torah. And what's important about this is that life is principle. If you need to save a life, you can break any commandment of the Torah to save a life. Then he said to that man, "Stretch out your hand." And he stretched out his hand, and it was restored like the other. And the Pharisees went out, and they took counsel about him so that they might destroy him. The religious Jewish Shabbat is broken by an influential do-gooder. Yeshua cast doubt on the traditions of the Pharisees, so they now plan to kill him. So what other traditions are we stuck with in our world today that are traditions of man? Christianity and Judaism both instill their own infallible traditions upon their followers. Both religions have resorted to killing opponents who expose or refuse to comply with their authority. Religious tradition obscures Torah and obfuscates that which was meant to be accessible to all. The Pharisees are losing their stakehold. Their cash cow is being jeopardized as Yeshua exposes the tyranny and injustice of their false religious tradition. But Yeshua knew, and he withdrew from there, and large crowds after him, and he healed all of them. And he charged them that they should not reveal him, that might be fulfilled the thing which was spoken of through Yeshayahu, or Isaiah, the prophet, who said, "Behold, my servant with whom I am pleased, my beloved one in whom my soul rejoices. I will place my ruach upon him, and he will preach judgment to the people. He will not argue nor cry out, and no man will hear his voice in the street. He will not break the broken reed, and he will not extinguish the flickering lamp until he brings judgment to truth, and the people will hope in his name. Do not argue or cry out the gospel." See 130 and 31. 130 is a technicality, but it suggests changing the word street to glory, shubka, referencing Isaiah's suffering servant. No man will hear his voice in the street. The plain reading makes sense, but also consider this as no man will hear his voice in glory, largely referring to the religious elite. This kind of Targumic cleverness by Matthew to turn on a word to make a deeper point is something he does in key places, especially with respect to Isaiah 7:14. As tantalizing as the Koboris reading is, there is no need to overturn 1905, as this would require replacing the kuf with a chet. Even so, this could well be a deliberate scribal error in Koboris that was meant to lead the reader into a deeper insight. Isaiah 42, "Behold, my servant whom I uphold, in my chosen one, in whom delights my soul, I have put my spirit upon him. Justice to the Gentiles he will bring forth. Not he will cry out, nor his voice raise, nor cause to be heard in the street his voice. A reed bruised not he will break, and flax smoking not he will quench. For truth he will bring forth justice, mishpat. Not he will fail, nor be discouraged, till he has established in the earth justice, and for his law the coastlands shall wait. Verse 22, then they brought him a certain possessed man who was mute and blind, and he healed him, so that the mute and blind man could speak and could see. And all the crowds marveled and were saying that, is this not the son of David? But when the Pharisees heard, said, this man doth not cast out demons, but by Beelzebub, the head of demons. But Yeshua knew their thoughts and said to them, any kingdom that is divided against itself will be destroyed, and any house and city that is divided against itself will not stand. Continuing, don't blaspheme the Ruach. All will be forgiven except blasphemy against Ruach HaKodesh. Watch your words. Verse 26, and if Satan casts out Satan, he is divided against himself. How then does his kingdom stand? And if I cast out demons by Beelzebub, what with do your sons cast them out? Because of this, they will be judges to you. And if by the spirit of Elohim I cast out demons, the kingdom of Elohim has come near to you. Or how is a man able to enter into the house of a strong man and to plunder his possessions, except first he bind the strong man and then plunder his house? Whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever did not gather with me scatters. Yahweh is the one true universal authority who chose to be represented by his Mashiach, but mankind wars against Yeshua and one another to establish his own authority. Dividing and scattering, fallen man inadvertently follows the pattern of Hasatan, the adversary. Verse 31, because of this, I say to you that all sins and blasphemies will be forgiven to the sons of men, but blasphemy that is against the Spirit will not be forgiven to the sons of men. And anyone who says a word against the Son of Man, he will be forgiven, but anyone who will speak against the Ruach HaKodesh, he will not be forgiven, nor in this world or in the world that is to come. If a person committed one of the capital offenses that are mentioned in Torah, but confessed and pleaded for forgiveness, their death could provide atonement. But those who blaspheme against the Spirit of Yahweh have nothing to make atonement for themselves, nor can they make an appeal in the name of Yeshua. See also Acts 5, 1 through 11, Hebrews 10, 28 through 30. Verse 33, either make the tree pleasant and its fruit pleasant, or make the tree bad and its fruit bad, for a tree is known for its fruit. Generation of vipers, how are you able to speak good things, you who are evil? For the mouth speaks from the fullness of the heart. A good man brings forth good from his good treasures, and the evil man brings evil from his evil treasures. I say to you, for every vain word that the sons of men speak, they will give an account of it in the day of judgment. For by your words you will be made righteous, and by your words you will be condemned. Deuteronomy 32:21, they have moved me to jealousy with that which is not Elohim. 136, the Targum teaches that the Nefesh Chaya, living soul, in Genesis 2:7 is best understood as the spirit of speech. Yahweh put a portion of his spirit in mankind, enabling man to speak and create with words. Our words are being judged accordingly. Death and life are in the power of the tongue. Proverbs 18:21. Verse 38. Then men of the scribes and the Pharisees answered and said to him, Teacher, we desire to see a sign from you. And he answered and said to them, An evil and adulterous generation seeks a sign, and a sign will not be given to it except the sign of Yonan the prophet, Jonah. For as Yonan was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights, likewise will the Son of Man be in the heart of the earth 3 days and 3 nights. The Ninevite men will arise in judgment with this generation and condemn it, because they repented by the preaching of Yonan. And behold, that one greater than Yonan is present. Okay, 137 is Jonah 1 verse 17. And see when was the resurrection in the appendix. And 138 is Jonah 3:5. 139. Yeshua points out cases where Gentile nations received proper instruction. Solomon to Sheva, Jonah to the people of Nineveh, and fared better than the nation of Israel, who had Torah all along. However, there is another meaning of the phrase, now one greater than Jonah is here. Jonah means dove. So Yeshua is implying a greater dove than Jonah is here, referencing the dove that appeared at his immersion, Matthew 3:16, Mark 1:10, Luke 3:22, and John 1:32. The dove pictures the presence of Yahweh upon Yeshua and therefore dwelling in him, separate from his humanity, Isaiah 11:1-2. The parallel accounts in Matthew and Luke clearly establish the Ruach HaKodesh and the Spirit of Yahweh as one and the same, interchangeable terms, not anything separated or discrete. Verse 42, the Queen of the South will arise in judgment with this generation, and she will condemn it, because she came from the ends of the earth to hear the wisdom of Shlimon, Solomon. And behold, one who is more than Shlimon is here. 140, that's from 1 Kings 10:9 and 2 Chronicles 9:8. 43. Now, when an unclean spirit goes out from a man, it wanders in places that have no water in them and seeks rest, but does not find it. Then it says, I will return to my house from where I came out. And it finds that it is empty and swept and orderly. Then it will go and lead 7 other spirits with it who are worse than it, and they will enter and dwell it, and the end of the man will be worse than his beginning. The evil generation will be like this. And while he was speaking to the crowds, his mother and brothers came and were standing outside, and they wanted to speak with him. Then a man said to him, Behold, your mother and your brothers are standing outside and desire to speak with you. But he answered and said to him that had spoken to him, Who is my mother, and who are they who are my brothers? And he stretched forth his hand towards his disciples and said, Behold, my mother and my brothers, for anyone who does the will of my Father who is in heaven is my brother and my sister and my mother. 51 times Yeshua speaks of his Father Yahweh, leaving no doubt as to who is in charge, and that what is required is Torah, instructions in righteousness of Yahweh, to be upheld and observed by all who follow them. At these times in the world, we need guidance, and Torah is guidance. These words of Yeshua are our guidance.